Good morning, crew. How's it going? Today we are just beginning to discuss our first unit, which is devoted to understanding techniques and devices. So what are we thinking about with this lesson? Well, we're going to get the broad overview of our first full unit, and we're going to understand the concepts of techniques and devices and intended effects. If at any point you need to pause, rewind, slow this thing down, do that. Make sure you're getting all of this good info. So the purpose of our unit is to understand how writers use specific techniques. Those are tools and strategies, and how they affect communication and deepen in meaning and understanding for readers. We also want to become better at utilizing specific writing techniques ourselves, both in our written communication and verbal communication, so as to improve our ability to get our ideas out to the world so people can understand what we're trying to say. Now, our statement of inquiry is the guiding principle of our unit. So everything that we're going to be thinking about comes back to this specific idea. And for this unit, it is effective communication requires the speaker or writer to utilize specific style and structure in order to deepen the understanding of or persuade a selected audience. We also have some inquiry questions. These are the things we're pondering over the course of this unit. So our factual inquiry question: what are rhetorical and literary devices, and what determines style in writing? Our conceptual questions: how do devices influence and enhance an argument? How do they improve that argument? And then the debatable: what is the most effective way to use style and rhetorical strategies in an argument or to deepen understanding? Now make sure that you pause the video and answer those three questions on today's worksheet. Concepts that we're going to be exploring through our texts. Now we've got a wide variety of texts. We'll be looking at poems, short stories, and we'll be devoting a lot of time to what is known as rhetoric. The concepts are power, persuasion, rhetoric, and change. All of our texts will revolve around one of those ideas in one way or another. So for significant assessments, we have a test on rhetorical and literary devices. We're going to have a rhetorical text analysis, and then we'll also have an original writing piece on a personal belief of yours where you espouse that idea and try to articulate it as clearly as possible using techniques and devices. All right, let's get into the good stuff. What are techniques and devices? Well, as we touched on earlier in the year, they are specific, deliberate constructions of language or strategies a writer uses to help the reader understand their ideas. In other words, they're very specific words or patterns of words that a writer uses in order to have a bigger effect. So these things include stuff like figurative language, structural choices, diction, tone, really all of the linguistic and organizational choices a person can make while they're writing. So that's what we're thinking about these techniques and devices are. They are strategies or choices. Something for us to keep in mind, however, is that techniques and devices do not include literary elements like plot, conflict, setting, etc. But rather, it's the way that we write about those elements. So we're not focusing on literary elements, we're focusing on techniques and devices. It's a big difference. Go ahead and take a moment to add this information to your organizer. Now, when we're looking at a piece of writing, we want to think about the dominant technique or device. So when we say dominant technique or device, we're thinking, okay, which device is used the most or is most important here for the meaning? So if we look at this thing right here, we shall not flag or fail, we shall not go on to the end, we shall fight in France, we shall fight on the seas and oceans, we shall fight with growing confidence and growing strength in the air, we shall defend our island, whatever the cost may be, we shall fight on the beaches, we shall fight on the landing grounds, we shall fight in the fields and in the streets, we shall fight in the hills, we shall never surrender. If we're thinking, what is the dominant technique, you probably noticed purposeful repetition. This writer used the repetition of the phrase "we shall" over and over again to have a specific intended effect. So what are intended effects then? Well, writers use techniques perfectly to get very specific results. If you use a piece of figurative language, if you use a metaphor or a simile, you're trying to have a specific effect. Those effects are supposed to help the reader understand important ideas. So these can include some examples of intended effects: creating mood, creating tone, emphasizing an idea or concept, highlighting information or details, providing more precise details, contrasting, comparing, implying an idea or information. That means kind of bringing up the idea without mentioning it directly. It could be making a connection, or it could act as or draw attention to symbols. Okay, when you're writing and you're making choices, you're making your choices based on what you want the intended effects of those choices to be. Go ahead and pop this into your vocab section on your organizer, and we will move on a little bit here. So we're looking at our passage again, okay? We just took a look at this, and we decided that purposeful repetition of "we shall" was the dominant technique. Well, we have to ask ourselves now, what was the intended effect of that? What was that supposed to do to help us understand? Well, for example, the "we" has the connotation of togetherness. So we associate togetherness with that word. So saying it over and over again emphasizes unity. "Shall" stresses the need for action. Saying "shall" over and over again shows that we need to do something. We will do it. It motivates people to do something. Again, emphasizing and underlining that idea. And then "we shall" instead of "we should" creates a positive, hopeful tone. So it creates a more uplifting atmosphere, which makes the reader feel more inclined to listen and engage. It creates an uplifting mood. Now, okay, you're going to give the two... Oh no, my slide's all messed up. My bad. Anyways, I'll go ahead and just describe it verbally. So you're going to go down to the next page. You're going to see two exercises. One of those exercises asks you to think about, okay, how do intended effects help? Try your best to answer these. The second one is a very guided exercise on how to do some technical analysis. Make sure you're really paying attention to all the directions on the right-hand side and do your best to put that analysis together. If you have any questions today, please do not feel afraid to reach out. I would love to help you. Have a great day, children.